It's really good to see you guys. It's been a while since the summer, and so I hope you guys have had some time off since we last spoke. I'm always remembering, how great it is to be in an NFL building when the players are back. The energy, just being around professionals who are trying to be the best version of themselves. It always impacts me every time they're back in the building. So excited to have them back here. Excited to get our fans back, coming together Saturday. Our night practice last year, which was one of my favorite events from last season. Our joint practices, our games, just really excited to get everybody back together. And first, let me thank all the people that put a lot of effort into training camp. There's a lot of people that are working tirelessly while I'm on vacation to make this experience great for everybody. So I want to make sure I first start off by thanking them. As we look forward to the 2023 version of the Vikings, I see this training camp as an opportunity for growth and development. We've got a lot of players taking on larger roles, and we've got veterans taking even bigger roles and obviously continuing to evolve in their own careers. So we're excited at the steps we've seen in the spring, the reps they've taken, the development, the really intentionality to how they've gone about their jobs to improve. And then some of these younger players trying to take that ability, those flashes, and turn them into consistency, because that's the difference between what they were and what they need to be going forward. I'm always really encouraged by looking at the group and seeing that we have a group full of passionate players who are love football, driven, and that's a credit to our scouts, our personnel, our inclusive coaching process as well. So really want to make sure I say that. And I think as we go forward, one of the things I also want to see this season is the evolution of the culture we built last season. It's one thing to come in and start something. It's another thing to continue it, grow it. And I'm really excited to see what that looks like this season with Kevin, his staff. They've done a great job, and looking forward to continue that going forward. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Kwesi, Kevin told us that Danielle reported today and said that he wouldn't be a full participant right away. And I asked him, he deferred to you, but does the contract need to be resolved one way or the other before he becomes a full participant?
There's a lot of things we're trying to work through with Danielle. Obviously, we haven't seen him since last season. So that, amongst many other issues that we're trying to work through with his representatives, those conversations are ongoing. So I don't want to give you an answer and tell you yes or no, but those conversations are ongoing.
Since he reported, do you feel confident that he's going to be part of the team this year?
I'm really excited to see him. It's great to see a great player like that, great Viking. Really excited, so I just want to make sure I say that. That's where I'm at right now.
Kwesi, what did you see from Alexander Madison last year that made you confident that if you move on from Dalvin Cook, that he could take over that role?
Yeah, Alex has been a really good player, not just last season, before that. I think when he had those times to come in when Dalvin hadn't played. But what he's really good at doing is earning extra, we call it, kind of taking the play and getting more than what it's worth, being able to fall forward physically, make people miss the second level, things like that. Really good in the passing game, as you saw a little bit last season as well. So he's a complete back, both phases, can handle pass protection, all those things. And those are things I was excited about, frankly, when I first got here. And then obviously it confirmed it when I saw him last season.
Kwesi, can you speak about the challenges of signing a high-level running back without having to break the bank in the NFL, as you see everything that's going on nowadays?
Yeah, these are tough conversations. It's interesting. The part of me that loves the theoretical, and over a glass of tequila, we could talk more about the theoretical side of things. You'd ask 32 different GMs to get 32 different answers. There's a salary cap, and if you decided to split it up evenly, and you give somebody more than their even part, well, you're taking it from somebody else. Can you do that? Can you do that with the confines of the offense you run, where you are in your time horizon? There's so much to it. I get asked that question all the time. I've studied it a lot. I can't tell you that there's a definitive answer. Every team that has a situation with a running back is different. But ultimately, you want to find great players that put together to be a championship team, and running backs are certainly a part of it. I've been around some great ones, obviously Dalvin in the past here as well. It's an interesting conversation, and obviously you always hope the players feel valued and how when they hit the field, and hope the teams obviously feel good about their situation.
What do you have for a plan for heat when, obviously talk about heat index and all that stuff? How does that work? What's the science of hydration? What do you guys do going into this week given the forecast?
Yeah, luckily we have people way smarter than me dealing with things like that. We have a great team, but the NFL had alerted us earlier months ago about how this could linger on into the spring, this summer, and then potentially the fall. So we make sure that we check every day and make sure that we plan our practice schedule around that. Know the times of day where it can be worse or different. Obviously, those fires are a serious issue, and we want to make sure that we take care of ourselves, but also be mindful of the serious issue that it stems from.
You have not extended the contract of Kirk Cousins. How comfortable are you going into the future not having a quarterback, or is this just kind of a wait and see kind of thing?
Yeah, we had great conversations with Kirk and his representatives, Mike and AJ. Ultimately, when you sit across the table from somebody, you try and understand their perspective and make sure they understand yours. And that's how our conversations were. It was never a type of thing where it was combative or it was yes or no. It was right now, we can't come to a solution that fits both of our perspectives. But we always knew that we were going to keep coming back to the table and conversing about where we see these things and ultimately try and find a decision that works for both parties. Again, always in that vision of trying to be one of those last teams standing. And if you can't do that, you shouldn't make decisions. But we're going to keep talking with those conversations as we go forward.
Is there a plan there? Like, do you have certain plans that if Kirk comes back, if Kirk does not? Because I think there's a lot of questions from fans about the most important position in sports, Kwesi. So like, what's the thought process here because of the variables that have been created by the lack of an extension?
Sure, you always have to be scenario driven in this job, prepared for every potential outcome. When you go to the draft, you have to be prepared for who's there, who's available, what happens if they're not available, trade back, trade up. So that's what we do in this job. The quarterback position, as you said, is extremely important, but it's no different in terms of being able to prepare for those plans. Ultimately, again, I'll always say it, there's a certain level that you need to have to win a championship, so you're trying to make sure you can have that within the confines of putting the rest of the team around them, and that's what we're always continue to do as we're here.
What did you think of the portrayal of Kirk and the position in general through the Netflix series?
I've been around this game, not as long as so many, but a lot, and it's incredible. I've always had such a respect for those guys. I was around Jimmy G in San Francisco and Baker and Cleveland and other guys, and Kirk he's an exceptional player. The work I'm glad everybody got to see what he puts into the game, because I don't think that's something that gets, the common person that really understands what he puts into it, what he puts his body through. And then just a general appreciation for that position. I remember, I think it was Jay Cutler years ago said, you're in this pocket, you're trying to do really complex decision making, and there is really large people chasing you, and you have to tell yourself that they're not. And that kind of what that goes on in your head is just when you sit and think about that, that's kind of a crazy thing. So I have an appreciation for all those guys that play that position. At this job, though, it's a professional job, and it's every play. How many plays more can you make than the person you're playing against? And that's what we're always trying to get. I think people saw that in that series, how good all of them really were. You could see that's the takeaway that I think most people could see, how close all the games are, how one third down makes you different than this game, or the ability to consistently get that third down over the course of a season. So really great show. I'm glad that everybody enjoyed it and saw what a great person Kirk is.
Kwesi, how would you characterize where things stand with Justin Jefferson in terms of talks about a new contract for him?
Yeah, we're ongoing dialogue. I believe we'll speak with the representatives again soon. We just got back to training camp, right? So there's no rush per se in that regards, but look, Justin when we got here, there's certain types of players you want around. Players who love football, are great at football, make their teammates better, just have that winning spirit. I'll never forget when I first met him, he just talked about winning. And that's what all you want around. So when you identify players like that, you try and find solutions to keep them around. We will do that as best we can as we go forward.
So that's something it's not, now that he's at training camp, talks, and that's not how you're looking at it?
Oh, no, certainly not.
Of Jordan Addison, Kevin was saying, I just want to talk to him about the seriousness of it, and that he understood that, because sometimes the younger guys may not. Is that what the conversations, I know you're not going to tell us specifically, but that's a big deal for a rookie that can come in and really make an impact.
Yeah, my relationship with the players is different than Kevin's. I try and sometimes allow him to be that made me give that perspective, but Jordan, through the draft process, impressed us with what type of person he is. And obviously he made a mistake. But what you see after the fact was, from his representatives to his family who reached out to me, this kid was raised right. he knows that what he made was a mistake, and everybody in his life is aligned to make sure that this was a one-time occurrence. We want to make sure that we coach him up and know that this is something that shouldn't happen and was serious. But we believe in Jordan and his future.
Can you be fined or punished for that at all from the team?
Those are conversations ongoing. We'll keep those in-house if we do decide to do that.
Kwesi, in conversation with Kirk and his camp, do you expect to have more, like, in the short term or following the season?
I have a relationship with Mike, so we talk all the time, so I can't tell you yes or no what will happen or won't happen. But again, we talk to all of our players' representatives, always want to make sure you're in good standing and have that relationship. So that will continue, and we'll see what happens from that.
Yeah, in the spring, Kirk had said something along the lines of, right after Dalvin had been released, that, maybe he could end up back here. And I don't know if he was musing about it or planting a seed or just kind of, he likes him. But, like, is that within the realm of possibility?
Dalvin obviously was a great player for a long time. We're just going to right now focus on the guys we have here in camp. It's, we're here beginning of training camp. I want to be excited about what we have here and maybe not speak about things like that. And obviously, everything's possible in this league, so I'll never close the door. But I'd really like to just focus on who we have here today.
Big picture, how do you describe where you think this team is in the competitive rebuild that you talked about last year?
Yeah, ultimately, you're always trying to be a playoff team, right? Get in the dance and see what happens. Year in and year out, that looks different. You can have a veteran-laden team where you're just trying to bet on the fact that everybody stays healthy. You could have a younger team where you have a lot of good probability potential, but a lot of things need to hit at once, and you need just to figure out where you are and kind of what you're rooting for. I believe we've done a lot to get ourselves in a position, but ultimately we focus on the 5 feet in front of our face, going out every day and trying to make sure that happens. We're going to be, new players at different positions, and we'll see what happens, but we're encouraged by what we've seen to this point, and I'm just going to focus on what I can control and what Kevin can control and what everybody in this great football operation can control, which is trying to get them better every day, and we'll see what happens at the end.
What do you think you're betting on this season, Kwesi?
I'm not allowed to bet. I don't think that's something I would do.
Not related to that, but you talk about your risks, rewards, and the competitive rebuild, the time horizon. Like what are you confident on? You can bank on. What do you feel like you have to bet on to get that level of success?
I got to keep those internal, and that might be another tequila talk, maybe a different time. But I think we have a great group. Our inclusive process with our coaches and our scouts. We have a lot of players that we believe in, but ultimately belief only gets you so far. We got to go out in the grass and see what happens. So I use the word Bayesian a lot, but ultimately I have initial beliefs, but I'm going to go out there and learn. I'm really excited to study our practice tape, our game tape, see where we're headed, see where we're going, and try and make decisions to put us in the best position this season and next.
Kwesi talking about betting, on a pre-camp thing.
You guys trying to get me in
I'm just saying,
trouble?
no, I'm trying to help you out here. In your pre-camp thing where you and Kevin get together and tell the building all the things they shouldn't do, like driving fast, stuff like that.
Yep.
Did you have to add gambling, considering everything that's going on in the league?
Yeah, well, in the spring, Kevin had a conversation about it, obviously, when it happened, and Kevin's so thorough and intentional about when he communicates with the team. We'll have that conversation soon, but I'm sure he has that planned. It's a serious thing, and obviously, for a lot of reasons, we don't want our players doing those things. So we'll make sure that the point is made.
Like subtle things. I mean, everybody knows you don't put a bet on your team or against your team, all that stuff. But there are subtle things that players have to be made aware of that they can't, like being involved in all pools or whatever.
And I don't want to speak for the other incidents, but it does sound like there was some confusion as to the rules. So we're trying to make sure we just hammer home the exact rules specifically and do it repeatedly so that there is no wiggle room for not understanding.
There's so many words bandied about. Are you calling this a competitive rebuild, or is that not how you see it in your mind?
I think it is a competitive rebuild in terms of how I viewed it when I got here, right? So if you look back at a 3-year time horizon, that's the plan we set. How do we shift from maybe where they were to getting to where we want to go, but still be good? Ultimately, when we made the playoffs, I'll never forget Kevin and I. That's our first time together, right? We make the playoffs and we look at each other like, man, yeah, we got to make this is too great, right? We got to put we want to be great every year and give ourselves a chance, and so that's kind of what it was. It was how do you shape shift while still winning, and ultimately that's a little riskier than tearing everything down and being bad for a while and coming back up. I know that, right? I can tell you the mathematical probability of doing it that way. And certainly that's a way that other teams may have chosen, but we didn't. That's not how we're trying to do it. We're trying to be good, figure out a way to be competitive, give yourselves many chances at it so that you can get one or more championships. That's what we believe in here, and we'll always try and pursue that.
Kwesi, if I could throw one more contract question at you. Where do things stand with TJ Hawkinson and any possible talks?
Just great dialogue with his agent. We spoke recently as well. I actually called TJ in when he got here. Again, another person that fits what we want as a Viking here long term, and we're going to try and find a solution for that as well.
Thank you.